normal year, and no one in their right mind would call these normal candidates. Generally, the pundit class called it for Hillary. No surprise there. The left loves her, and the D.C. elites hate Trump. But Trump did very well in some online polls, which aren't scientific. CNBC has Trump winning, as does CBS, Time, and The Hill. Even Variety has Trump with the win. CNN, on the other hand, has Hillary ahead. So we've got a special hour of analysis, a ton to get to, but I'm going to throw it around the table first quickly. Your original first thoughts on what you saw last night.
My first thoughts were, I was in the beginning thinking, wow, 90 minutes, but it went by very quickly, and it sped through, and I was like, okay, wait, are they going to get to this? And so I obviously would have loved to hear, and I think a lot of people at home too, some more discussion. There's so much to get to, so many, meat and potatoes of the election in terms of the economy, in terms of national security. And yeah, I would have liked to see more about, emails, et cetera, but I think we'll talk about a little bit more about that later. But those are opportunities for a candidate to take as well. Now, besides that, I think that Hillary looked good. She didn't seem like she was sick. She didn't seem like that she was having low energy or low stamina. So I don't know. I think in that sense, she came off as one of the first things I thought when I saw the screen. And I think Trump looked like, he normally does, and he was strong and he seemed comfortable in his own skin.
All right, Juan, what are your thoughts? Brief thoughts?
Well, to me, there was the commander-in-chief test. Can Donald look presidential? And I didn't see it at all last night. The sniffling, the grimacing, the smirking. And, then,
That's a new word.
Smirking? Smirking. Well, anyway. And then
even if you watch it in a quiet room, the TV cameras have a tendency to pick up things that you don't pick up when you're in the audience. We'll get into it a little bit more later. But I agree with Juan. I think yesterday on the show I said, boy, you should turn the volume off and watch the debate a little. I'll tell you, Trump, in the football games, you watch game film.
Right.
He should do that. He should go watch that back with the volume off. Maybe a little bit of tip right there. We're going to talk about who won or who lost in a second. Dana, your thoughts?
I would say that NBC billed it as the first presidential debate. It was going to be about American prosperity and security, and I thought that there would be a little bit of a lift. But they trod over ground that had been gone over a lot of time. Maybe that was for clarity's sake, and then in the other two debates they can move on from that. But I do believe that after all the hype and the wondering of which kind of candidate was going to show up from either side, would she be this way, would he be that way, it turns out that both of them came as themselves. And that's what you got. And I do think that if the Trump campaign really felt really good about it, they probably wouldn't have canceled going to the victory party or the event. She went to hers. The other thing that she did, it was interesting. All week long we were saying expectations for her were so high. But because of the polls tightening so much, I think in some ways the expectations for him rose a little too much. Now, she didn't put him away by any means, but the other two debates, I think you're going to see that whereas last night he was a little too hot, she was a little too cool, but she probably stopped her slide with Democrats, wobbly Democrats, unenthusiastic Democrats. He didn't lose anybody on his side necessarily, but I don't think either of them expanded their base.
All right, Greg?
Yeah, when you're, I'm like an uncle, so I get invited when I had, nieces and nephews to soccer games, and the expectations are very, very low for those games. Children playing sports, it's long and tedious and nothing good ever happens, but you go anyway. That's what this was. This was like watching children play soccer. He had a strong start, I thought, but he faded. And I think it was because in the previous primary debates, he had so many other people there so that he could be strong and then he could fade back a little bit. In a way, he was like me playing soccer. When you were bad, you would just kind of start running around and hide with everybody else so no one could notice. But now when it's one-on-one, you can't do that.
Oh, my God.
So he didn't have the luxury of kind of kicking back, but he also had this disadvantage where he must defend himself against the personal and the business criticisms because he doesn't have the political background. So you can go after her political record, but he has to constantly fend off personal or professional attacks. So that's why I think it's harder for him in a sense to deal with slights because they're not about a professional record. They're about this is how you think about women. This is how you think about people in general.
All right, we each picked a highlight or a low light of the debate, and they have us going in this order. I'm going to kick it off with the low light for me. And sitting there, I'm watching this debate, and Donald Trump. They first go through his tax records, and Lester Holt, who said he wasn't, I believe he said he wasn't going to fact check the candidates, fact checked Donald Trump on his taxes. Then he fact checked him 4 separate times after that. That was fine, but I will tell you, when he came to Hillary Clinton saying this and he failed to fact check it, it really drove me crazy. Watch.
In New York City, stop and frisk, we had 2,200 murders, and stop and frisk brought it down to 500 murders. And it was continued on by Mayor Bloomberg, and it was terminated by current mayor. But stop and frisk had a tremendous impact on the safety of New York City, tremendous beyond belief. So when you say it has no impact, it really did. It had a very, very big impact.
Well, it's also fair to say, if we're going to talk about mayors, that under the current mayor, crime has continued to drop, including murders. So there
you're
is.
Wrong. You're wrong.
No, I'm not.
Murders are up.
Yeah.
All right, you check.
New York.
And at that moment, I remember, because I said, she's wrong, and the people around me looked at me like, shh, you can't say that, because she is wrong. Take a look. Here's the number. Wall Street Journal, that comes right from the FBI. 2014, 333. That's when Mayor de Blasio took office. 2015, the last available number, 352. That number is up 5% or so. So she was clearly wrong. Lester Holt had a lot of opportunity to fact check Donald, and no opportunity, or chose not to fact check.
I don't think that's
Hillary.
right, Eric.
It is right. It's the number.
I don't think that's true.
But
It's the FBI number.
I think it's,
and by the way,
down.
Wall Street Journal.
It's going down. It's on a rate right now that's going down in
Yes.
2016.
Well,
It's going down, and
guys,
it's lower
the year is
than
not
it's ever
in
been.
the year is not in the
I'm
books.
just
What she said
fact
was
check that.
under Bill de Blasio,
think
the
this-
murder rate, including the rate of crime, is going down.
I don't know.
Including
I
murder,
talked
and
to a
that is
police officer who
unequivocally
disagrees.
wrong.
I don't think that one's right.
Take it up with the Wall Street Journal and the
All
FBI
right.
guy.
I took it up with the New York police officer last night.
All right. Listen, maybe
When
they-
you got arrested
maybe-
again?
maybe your friend does. Okay.
Shoplifting.
Yeah. Chopstick.
At any case, he didn't check her on it, and he was. There's some questionable fact checking on the Trump side. So, KG, you're next.
Yeah, I got one, and I wrote about it last night. This is, again, in the Trump versus Clinton. It's about judgment, and where he had an opportunity, one of the few that he took, to kind of hit her and bring up the whole thing about 30 years. It seemed, at least from social media, that did seem to get some pickup and generate some enthusiasm and buzz with people. So take a listen to this.
We can deploy 500 million more solar panels. We can have enough clean energy to power every home. We can build a new modern electric grid. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of new economic activity.
And Hillary, I just ask you this. You've been doing this for 30 years. Why are you just thinking about these solutions right now? For 30 years you've been doing it, and now you're just starting to think of solutions.
Well, actually,
I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs.
Well, actually, I have thought about this quite a bit.
Yeah, for 30
and
years.
I have, well, not quite that long.
Anyway, so that was a moment that you kind of felt that he had some momentum, and perhaps maybe even a line or kind of a little bit of a jab that he had rehearsed or thought about and remembered to point out. And so I think it shows that can be really effective when you have that in like your toolbox to make a point, because it's few and far between when you get the opportunity in a situation like that.
Can I comment on that on her behalf? Because Selena Zito of the New York Post sat with some people, undecided voters, in Youngstown, Pennsylvania last night. And so that comment came, the one that you chose, in like the first 20 minutes of the debate, which people largely think that was where he was really on a good track, and then faded away from there. But one of the things that they said, and now that said, his poll numbers could go up after this, who knows? But I do think in Pennsylvania, these undecided voters were persuaded by that, because one of the people says, by the end of the debate, Clinton never said a thing to me that she could relate to me or my family or my community. That the policies she talked about tonight ultimately either will hurt me or they will ignore me. And so he has the benefit of being the out-party candidate.
Yeah.
And he took it at the very beginning. That 30 years thing I thought was really great, and it might actually work for him, at least in Youngstown, Pennsylvania.
I heard you say that last night.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
You're party candidate.
Dana,
Kimberly never sleeps.
your
No, I really
moment.
don't.
I chose something that you might not have seen anywhere else, because I thought that would be fun.
Yes.
It was this moment when Clinton talked about the financial crisis.
Let's stop for a second and remember where we were 8 years ago. we had the worst financial crisis, the Great Recession, the worst since the 1930s. That was in large part because of tax policies that slashed taxes on the wealthy, failed to invest in the middle class, took their eyes off of Wall Street, and created a perfect storm. In fact, Donald was one of the people who rooted for the housing crisis. He said back in 2006, gee, I hope it does collapse because then I can go in and buy some and make some money. Well, it did collapse.
All right, so the reason I bring up that moment is both it's not right. She's incorrect. We're going to talk about missed opportunities in a little bit. He missed one, especially because there is actually nobody in Washington who would say that the financial crisis or housing crisis was caused by tax cuts. You might disagree with the tax cuts, but that wasn't the reason why. And so it was mystifying to me why somebody with so much experience of 30 years in Washington would have said that, because it really is something that either Lester Holt or Donald Trump could have come back on.
I don't think that was the point. I think the point was he was rooting for the housing collapse and said he could make money.
In her
at
sentence,
it.
she says that the tax cuts led to
No, she
those
said
things.
she sort of called it a perfect storm, which was
She
deregulation,
leads with the tax cuts, which
and,
is
and
what.
all that
Now she's
benefit.
very good at narrowcasting to the people that she needs to turn out for her debate. People in
Right.
Bernie Sanders' world, yeah, they believe that tax cuts led to that, but that is actually not true.
You know what struck me coming
it's a
out of
false
it was
narrative.
that he said he was smart not to pay taxes. And I was like, whoa.
You know what, though? That's taken. Okay, that thing, it ticks me off a little bit because people, people pay. He pays taxes. If he pays. If he has a paycheck, he pays that. It's about you doing it wisely. Everybody tries to.
Who wants to pay more taxes than you absolutely have to?
Generally, you end up paying what you pay. He's just trying to do it wisely. It's kind of like he meant it like you have an accountant and people have accountants. But
Based on the laws on the books.
yeah, one more sports metaphor. I think that Trump sees this as a 3-day golf tournament, and this was the first day, the first 18 holes, but there's another 36 to go. So I think I thought last night, I sensed that he was taking a lay of the course and feeling the competition. He's treating it like a dry run.
Really?
Yeah,
I kinda
see how she acts and reacts.
Yeah, because there's two more days left in the tournament.
There's only one first debate, brother.
What they-
Yeah, but there's the last one.
We have actually
remember.
2 more sound bites. We have Juan's and Greg's coming up right after the break. Stay tuned. We're going to get to Juan and Greg's, like I just said, after the debate, after the commercial. I'm sorry. We'll be right back.
Hi. Back now to last night's debate and our takeaways from it. We've been playing some of the moments that stood out to all of us. Juan, you're up next, and Greg will have an opportunity.
Oh, thank you.
So, let's forget what I thought. Let's go to the Twitter accounts and see what exactly got the highest reaction from people who were watching the debate last night. And it has to do with this comment from Donald Trump.
Take clean energy. Some country is going to be the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. Donald thinks that climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. I think it's real.
I did
think
not.
Science is real.
I do not say that.
And I think
I
it's
do not
important
say
that.
Well, guess what? He had said that, and he said it in writing. Here it is. It says the concept of global warming was created and by the Chinese.
By and for the Chinese.
By and for the Chinese in order to make the U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. Oh, my goodness. Well, it looks like he got called out on that one.
Well, part of the fun of all this is watching how much you can get away with, right? Because, there's questions about fact-checking, et cetera. She obviously baited him into that. But actually, my second lowlight, my second choice, was the next thing she said after that, when she talked about basically there was going to be a rainbow in every pot based on her energy policy, because everything was going to be clean and everything was going to be fine, which is a unicorn ride to the moon, and not accurate, and something that.
Well, the other one that caught my attention was when he said the business about Miss Universe, Alicia Machado, and then this morning he came on Fox and Friends and just doubled down and said, you know what, she got fat. I mean,
Yeah, that was not good.
Wonder who's giving that advice. What's next?
Do you have something
Oh, yeah.
appropriate or
Snifflegate.
well behaved? Yeah.
But perhaps we'll be talking about that later. So many, hundreds and hundreds of companies are doing this. Our country's in deep trouble. We're the best ever at it. It's a defective agreement. Why hasn't she made the agreements better? Is that okay? Good.
This is actually a high-energy breathing exercise, a form of meditation that businessmen do to kind of keep their thoughts in check. I find it interesting. We were so obsessed with her health, and then he has the sniffles.
know.
But it was just a natural. He enjoys breathing, and I think the podium smelled so good.
I thought it'd been funny if she handed him a tissue.
Yeah.
Did you dub those in?
Yes, I did. I dumped them
Is that
in.
what it is? So like
Snifflegate.
aromatherapy coming through the microphone?
I thought his mic wasn't working.
No, can I be honest with you? And I mentioned this morning to the producers, like, don't go there, Bowling. That sounds so conspiracy. In that hall,
Here he goes.
for the first 7 minutes or so, when she spoke, it was a very loud. You could hear it. It resonated through the hall. When he spoke, you almost couldn't hear him. Now we were sitting.
But
I
he's
was
still
sitting toward
believed
the
to have
back.
won the first 20 minutes.
No, but I can actually see how it might be disconcerting if you're not being heard at all. Maybe you're thinking, is anyone hearing me? Who knows? I have no idea. But that part is true. You didn't make that part up. I'll just sitting there. I'll tell you that was.
Speaking of the technical stuff, I know that
sports
they've used the
metaphors.
split screen before in previous debates, but they've used it. They used it almost constantly last night, and I can't figure out if it's good or bad because I felt like it was the Muppets, and you had like somebody, the two old guys watching you. Watch. It was like Mystery Science Theater. Somebody's talking.
Oh, and there
somebody
you
else
are.
is- But it was just like he had. You know what it is? Is that at times his face is just more interesting than her words. So she'll be talking, but it'll be you're looking at his face change, and it's kind of it's hypnotic.
But for the week leading up to it, we told everybody to
Turn
watch for
sound.
the nonverbal.
See,
So if they hadn't been on, then
Yeah, the
people
face
might have-
cam.
I would do the opposite. I would take the opposite side of that and do exactly what we're doing right there. No volume. And if I were the Trump campaign, just just sit there for 95 or 100 minutes, however long they were on, and just say, I don't think I like myself doing that right there. And forget, because look, when you're in a group, a big group that love you or your followers, you can do things like that, and you get a positive reaction from that facial stuff and some of the hand
You know what?
stuff.
Something
But
else
maybe
I
you don't wanna do
noticed.
it
She was
with 81 million
taking forever to say like something, but at the end it was like very drawn out. But it was kind of smart because it ran out the clock a little bit, and she was making her statements and taking her time. And I'm not
gonna be
rushed.
You know what I'm worried about, though, Eric? I don't think he takes any pride in preparing. I think he takes pride in the idea that he comes and does it.
Can I be
of
honest
his
with you?
own.
I think he could have prepared more. There were times you get 2 minutes to answer a question.
Yeah.
And there's times for me it looked like he was done at about a minute and a half, and had 30,
Had to fill
30
the
seconds
time.
more. But turn it, make it. I've answered the question. I want to go back to my.
Yeah.
I've created this many jobs.
Exactly.
That's prep. That
That's
he could
prep.
use a little bit more
Maybe they
prep.
just
Maybe it's
use his own
stamina.
point.
Stamina, huh? Who had the stamina last night, Eric?
We got the stamina here at the table. Tell you what. Is that bad? Was that bad?
No, it was actually kind of cute. I don't
Well,
think
it's true.
anybody minded.
All right. Trump's well known for his fierce and ferocious counterpunch, but Greg thinks he's got one. No. He thinks he let Clinton off easy last night. He's going to explain why. Take notes next.
So you know when you're watching Monday Night Football, you're yelling at the TV for the quarterback to hit the open man, but he keeps running the ball and you're left with a fourth down punt? That was me last night yelling at Trump, who failed to connect on a golden repeated opportunity, the emails. Example, when the topic of cybersecurity arose, Trump simply agreed with his nemesis and said that it was important, when he should have said, how can you take advice on cybersecurity from someone who kept a server in her bathroom? Or when birtherism came up, he could have said, who cares? By the way, didn't Mr. Obama use a pseudonym when emailing you on your private server in your bathroom? And when asked about your tax returns, why not say, my accountant pleads the fifth, just like Cheryl Mills did over your private server, which you keep in the bathroom? See, every response should lead back to that scandal. Instead, the less prepared Donald gave her a pass on the thing that relentlessly exposes her as unworthy of America's trust. People don't trust her, so you need to remind them that she's as trustworthy with our secrets as her husband is with our strippers. But Trump, missing a succulent opportunity, just won't let you root for him. No wonder Hillary was grinning like Chairman Mao on ecstasy.
Oh, my gosh.
Did anybody see that debate last night? Oh, yes.
Oh, no. Maybe next time, Donald. You know, Kimberly, he did say that well, here's a shot of him complaining, sound on tape, I'm sorry, jargon, of Donald Trump critical of Lester Holt for not bringing up the emails.
Okay.
He didn't ask her about the emails at all. He didn't ask her about her scandals. He didn't ask her about the Benghazi deal that she destroyed. He didn't ask her about a lot of things that she should have been asked about. I mean, there's no question about it.
Why do you think that is?
About her foundation. Why? I don't know. I mean, I didn't think he did a bad job.
He could have, but the thing is, if Mr. Holt didn't bring it up, Mr. Trump could have, right? He's not shy.
Yes, God helps those who help themselves. So
That's the word.
God.
I was.
Help. Yes. Okay. Glad that worked for you.
He just had his epiphany.
Oh my goodness! Now it all makes sense.
Okay.
He's going to be so happy.
Exactly.
Yes, off
But
to
yes,
church.
you've got to take those opportunities. And listen, we've heard how many times, like the public speaking opportunities, all the Trump rallies where he smashes it, right? He just leaves like nothing uncovered. He just goes after her with like a tenacity and a focus, and he just brings it all on. I feel there that he was more trying to be, professional, do the debate in the format it was supposed to be, make sure that he wasn't in any way insulting to her, and make sure that he came off as presidential. But also at the same time, you don't want to waste those opportunities to hit it and hit it hard and do a pivot if you've got a question, and then bring in something that's on your list in your mind of 5 things you got to make sure that before that night is over, you have hit her on Benghazi, you have hit her hard the way you want to on emails, and just turn it.
And can I dovetail on that? And that comes with experience, right? I mean, when you have 17 or 15 or 12 or 5 people on the stage, you don't necessarily have to work it in that way.
Right.
You can wait, you can lay back, figure it out, but you have to be able to
Kinda like on the fly.
do it on the fly. You have to do it fast, right? But also, when you have a moderator who asks questions like your tax returns, questions like the birth certificate issue, and questions like what you've said about Mrs. Clinton's looks, and then leaves off things like the Clinton Foundation or Benghazi or your health or your husband's philandering or deplorables, and never gets to those, it's a little hard. You spend a lot of time defending, not a lot of time on offense.
Well, I mean, it's a good point in the sense that if somebody reminds you of something, you will say it, and so she's reminded. She's reminded. Oh, I can say this, but he's like deplorables, emails, Clinton Foundation. Those are fat pitches for him.
Well, there's 2 things. I think she missed something and he missed something, and I also, let me tell you about deplorables. I think the reason that he didn't bring it up is that in this weird election that we have, apparently, based on a Wall Street Journal NBC poll from last week, deplorables actually stuck to him worse than it did to her. So trotting over that ground probably was not the best thing. So I think maybe they've decided that's not the thing they want to talk about. He missed an opportunity, big one, and Republicans everywhere are missing it. It's Obamacare.
Oh, yeah.
The death spiral has begun across the country. I mean, that hits the middle class. She could have brought up Trump University, and she didn't. So everybody has.
Because she didn't bring it up because then he could have brought up Clinton Foundation.
And then she's like CGI. She's like, well, what about your charitable giving? And
that would have been
cancel
great.
each other out.
That's the debate.
The race to the bottom.
You know what struck
Someone's going to
me
win it.
was at one point she said to him, in terms of that birther stuff, that this is a man who has practiced racism, right? And she said it twice. And I've never seen a white politician on such a major stage say to another white politician, you have been practicing racist behavior and going after. And then when he tried to get out and say, well, I got him to produce it. I actually helped the president because I got the president to produce his birth certificate. I was like, what is this going on?
And then gone, real racism, Mrs. Clinton.
Well, he could have come back.
1992 crime bill, which ended up incarcerating more African Americans.
He did land that on her.
But he didn't respond to the charge of racism. Well, it could have been, but something. But he never responded to it. In fact, when he was asked about, how you heal racial tensions in a society, he says, "What? Nothing. I can't do anything about it."
You know what? I have to give him credit. That took serious stones to say, like, bringing up the birther issue helped President Obama. That's like a guy,
that's unbelievable.
It's like a guy running over your dog and going, you know what? Just think about how much money you are going to save on pet food.
How much free time you have.
Yes. I'm not against running over dogs, by the way.
In favor.
I'm in favor. I'm not in favor.
Oh, my God.
I'm not in favor.
Heat is on you now.
Uh-oh. Anyway, don't go away. If you leave now, you're going to miss the one and only Brit Hume. He's going to join us for more debate analysis next.
He can run his campaign and present himself however he chooses, but the real point is about temperament and fitness and qualification to hold the most important, hardest job in the world. And
I think people saw last night some very clear differences between us.
What grade would you give yourself?
Well, I don't like to grade myself, but I know I did better than Hillary in every poll has shown. I thought she was very bad in the first half when they were asking normal questions, and when they were asking unfair questions, she got better.
Clinton and Trump both feeling confident about their performances last night. We'd like to hear what Brit Hume thinks. And guess what? The On the Record host is here in New York, and he joins us now.
Yay!
Diana?
So this is not your first rodeo when you're looking at like the first presidential debate.
No.
How important is the first 48 hours after a debate for each of the campaigns?
Well,
to shape it?
What can happen in the first 48 hours is that what people thought about the debate, if they watched it, can change as people hear what others say about it. And they see certain things replayed over and over again that they might not have thought were that important when they first saw them. So opinion does shift over time, not always, but often it does. So the first 48 hours can be very, very important.
Something that Eric said, because he was in the room last night, and he said the thing, when you're in the room, it was different than when he left it to see what was on TV and what people picked up on was different.
Shocking the difference.
You didn't hear the
The
snippet.
question I have is, do you have any advice for the candidate taking a victory lap after one debate? I mean, you saw the laugh that Greg played in his monologue. They seem to be very confident. Should she be this confident, Mrs. Clinton?
You mean Mrs. Clinton?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that if you feel you've had a strong debate performance and there's data to back it up, there's only one scientific poll. And scientific polls taken in the immediate aftermath of a debate are not that reliable anyway. But the one that was done scientifically suggests that the most people thought she won. So it builds the morale of your supporters and gives your campaign a lift, may help fundraising if you think you've won, to go out and say you've won. But as to the outcome of the next debate, it doesn't make any difference.
Can you imagine, though, the method she did? I won, and then that laugh, that roaring laugh, a little understatement.
Remember, Romney
Hey, I
was
think we
up
won.
6 points after the first debate in 2012 as well. Juan, do you have a question for Brit?
So I'm sitting next to you last night with Miss Dana Perino, and the next thing I know, I totally missed it, but apparently all the media websites went after you. What happened?
Oh, well, I was commenting on the candidate's demeanor, which is what you evaluate as a political journalist when you're watching a debate. And I said Trump looked uncomfortable and out of sorts, and I've forgotten what else. And I said Hillary Clinton looked composed, smug some of the time, and not necessarily attractive. And not necessarily attractive. Talking about demeanor here. This is what we judge. Well, a lot of people on the internet took that as an attack on her looks. So they mounted this massive tweet storm attacking, guess what? My looks. And some of
didn't have much to work.
Some of that's it was my looks. Well, they thought they did, and they just some of it. I'm going to have some of it on the program later tonight.
And that's not what you meant
Some of
at
it's just
all.
hilarious. Well, I was just talking about demeanor.
Right. And
Look, we're not yet living in a society where a female candidate's demeanor cannot be criticized. We're just not there yet. But
Wait
at
till
the rate
2020.
we're going, we may get there.
You know one thing that struck me afterwards, Britt? When I hear from people who were Trump supporters, they say, oh, Trump did fine. I'm like, how can that be? But then you hear from people who were Clinton supporters, they're ebullient, obviously. But I'm just struck by the bubble aspect of modern politics. It's like people don't want to hear anything that they disagree with.
The history of these presidential debates has been that we watch them and assess them and weigh it. But most people come out of watching the debate with the same sentiment about the candidates they had going in.
Right.
That's been true forever.
Yeah.
So what you look for is sort of people at the margins who really don't have a strong favorite. And there are more of those this year than usual at this stage. And certainly a debate like last night's and the ones still to come can make a difference with those people. And that's obviously what you're working on.
Yeah, a sports metaphor. Denver Broncos playing the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders win. It's not like all of a sudden Denver Bronco fans go, oh, now I'm an Oakland Raider fan. If you're a fan, you just stick by your team.
Right.
That's how it works.
That's not what this stage of the election's not about the fans. They're going to vote for who they're going to vote for. The election is about those that are still persuadable.
All right, Kimberly, last question.
So where do the two candidates go from here? Meaning, if you were to advise, based on all your years of experience of covering all these elections and debates, like, what do you think the advisors should be telling Trump at this point, and what do you think they should be telling Hillary?
Well, I think they should. If I were advising Hillary, I'd say you did mostly the right things. You didn't get harsh in your presentation, right? And you didn't make the mistakes that sometimes you've made. So remember that the next time out. Your preparation helped you, so don't fail to do it again. With Trump, I'd say, Mr. Trump, you need to be humble enough to recognize that you didn't have your best night, and you've got it in you to recover, and be sure you do. Perhaps prepare a little more,